Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all this afternoon. Thank you for stopping by. We're going to first introduce ourselves, and my name is Breezy Silver. I'm the Interim Director and Collections Coordinator at the Gas Business Library of Michigan State University.
Thank you for being here. Steve Kramer, UNC Greensboro. I'm the Business Economics Librarian.
I'm Cynthia Cronin-Carden, the Collection Development Librarian for the Lippincott Library. That's the business library at Penn.
Let's go to slide 4. So you've all seen the Code of Conduct already many times. It's a good one, but we're going to move on. And these notes, you've all seen this too. All right.
Make sure to use the mics.
Who does? Oh, we do.
Everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everybody.
Everyone for the questions.
Okay. We submitted this as proposal as a lively discussion, and it was accepted by mistake. And then a week later, they told us, no, you weren't accepted yet. Okay. And then they rejected us. And then a month later, they said, oh, we have space for you for a panel. Would you mind doing that? And we said, sure. Can you edit our title inscription to remove the lively discussion sentence or two? And they said, yeah. And that didn't really happen. So this is a panel, 40 minutes, so I'm sorry if you came in. However, we do hope to have at least 15 minutes of Q&A and sharing, because we think this topic, definitely there's much for us to learn from you all, and each other, of course, as well as hearing us talk about stuff. So we do hope to have a good discussion time. It's obviously a small room, there's a microphone available. It'll be easy for us to hopefully communicate with each other. So that is the context for this. You can see our agenda. We'll be interacting not sharing the mic, but we'll be each of us talking a number of times, so it's not just 1, 2, 3, and we're done. And please let us know, particularly me, because I need it the most, if we're not communicating well, because hopefully we will fix that. All right. So why and how? And we're going to each briefly talk about context and situations and history a little bit on this topic. Breezy.
So as the collections coordinator of the business library, the reason why we might encounter the one-time funds is, like many, we have either use up our own funds before end of year, or might need to try to get some of that other one-time money, so you need to be able to advocate for yourself. And I also work with the College of Business and help them with all of their data purchases as well. So I encounter it even with them, so not just in the library, but the college as well.
And I'm at the University of Pennsylvania. I have kind of a different setup than Steve and Breezy. In July, monies are dispersed to each of the Penn libraries. So I have a budget to spend out by the end of the year. And obviously, those monies are used for renewals, ongoing expenditures, and collection development, including new databases. But what happens is if I don't spend all of my monies, then the remaining funds will be spent on one-time purchases, or in my case, my monies will be taken away and given to the greater good. So whatever other library needs some money to pick something up fast, I lose it, which I don't enjoy.
My school is a regional public university, and as many of you know, those kind of institutions often are struggling right now with enrollment and with budgets. So our budgets are tight. However, the last 3 years and in past years too, the provost office contacts us usually in late May and tells us, here's a lot of money, can you spend this please? And you've got 4 weeks. And the provost office generally has staff, faculty. Labor costs is the major cost, unit cost in terms of their budget. The library, though, can buy things, including quickly, hopefully. And so we are a good target for the provost to get rid of some money because we're under the provost. So that's really the context. And sometimes we're talking almost $1 million in 1 year that we need to spend, and we have 4 weeks to do it, including licensing, and we'll get into some of those complications and issues later on this hour.
So first I want to talk about some of our selection strategies that we pulled together as a group. So what do we consider when we're selecting what we want to get? Some of the bigger issues that we might take in consideration are faculty research needs, of course. I mean, we're there for the faculty and the students, and we're seeing an increasing demand for data. So what can we get that will help our faculty? It also helps if there's an interdisciplinary interest. So is it something that's available outside just the College of Business that might be using it? Or something that we think will get wide use. The other thing we have to take in consideration when we're trying to select what we're going to get are new licenses. I mean, those can take a long time. So if it's something that we're going to have to struggle with, and you're like Steve, and you only have 4 weeks, and it's like not going to happen. We take into consideration things like price discounts. Are there bundling opportunities? Is there ways we can save money if we go with a certain product? Related to the licenses is also, do we take it as a purchase, which is nice, where you can go and get that money, or is it a subscription? And I'm not saying subscriptions are out of the realm of possibilities, it just adds another layer of sometimes the difficulty, because what are you going to do when the money runs out, when the subscription's up, you know? But you also have to take in consideration possible maintenance fees, because even if it is a one-time purchase, you might have to have those maintenance fees. How long of this year of the subscription? And sometimes I've learned from my experiences, data can sometimes be a little bit easier for subscriptions, just because faculty are already used to data coming and going. We also have to take in consideration access methods. Single sign-on, while it can be great, not everybody can use it. So when we are looking at that, is that something that we can do? And then when it's a data that the institution must host, is it something we have the ability to host? Is it something, the file size, you know, is it something we can do? And the biggest thing we have to do, though, is plan ahead. I mean, you can't be like Steve in the last 4 weeks. You have to have some ideas ahead of time. You know, get the quotes, set the vendor expectations. Can you even get the license a little bit earlier to start looking at it if they'll share it with you? Try to get your buy-in, so go talk to the other librarians and get them on board so you can get the troops to rally with you on getting it. And then just be ready to prioritize and pitch when it comes to it. And then we'll turn it over to Steve.
So I'm going to talk about talking with the vendors. And first, negotiations take place within a backdrop of other activities that are going on. We might have fund restrictions, so we can only use a certain pile of money for certain things. The faculty and PhDs come at us with new research needs, and we don't have the data that they need to do their work. We have ongoing commitments and spending deadlines, and there's also a lot of vendor changes that happen. There's a lot of M&As going on that can affect a product. There's changes to database contact. Someone might add something new, and suddenly my renewal is being increased by more than I suspected because I'm told there's new content in there. And there's also the sunsetting of products. So I had this product last week, and in 3 weeks, I'm going to have to get something else because it's being sunsetted. Finally, we have university requirements for new vendors so they can get into the financial system, and licensing issues like we keep talking about Steve and his 4 weeks. That's almost impossible to get a license signed. And licensing is changing now too. Like so many sessions I've been in, I've heard about new licensing requirements dealing with AI and the university. So if if you can get a license or if it's a known vendor, then you can push something through more quickly. But negotiation strategies can include multi-year contracts, which are always a win-win for both sides, buying a one-time purchase, and then updating it over years. So you're basically buying a new product every year, but you're updating the data. And if it's possible, starting negotiations earlier in the year, but we often don't know what is out there and what someone needs. Steve? No.
Okay, sorry, my mistake, I apologize. So then you actually have purchased or not the content with your one-time money, and it comes to the point of how to, I'm so sorry that I forgot you had, that was wrong.
Okay.
It comes to the point of how do you communicate what you just purchased and the interesting / complicated access or dates involved or time periods involved. So I think the first issue is how do you announce this? And I should preamble this. Some of my colleagues decided, as you can see with that final bullet point, not to. It's just too complicated, and so we're not going to. In context for that, we had budget cuts. We canceled some databases that are normally we would never want to give up, but we had to in some cases to do that. And yet we're getting this one-time content, which hopefully is useful, but it may not. It doesn't replace the thing we lost due to budget cuts, for example. And one little side note: my colleague Terry is here, and he talked about this yesterday. We are doing a renovation in which most of the 900,000 books we have in our tower will be unavailable for 18 months plus. With a small number of new books and returned books will be still around, but most of the collection will be not available. So that's another removal of content, and yet we're spending money on other things, even though some departments would rather us somehow magically keep a few 100,000 books around despite the library tower being closed. So despite these issues, how do we communicate this? And do we, for example, segment out communication? Maybe the core clients, if you get a certain database for Department X, maybe you only kind of communicate what you got with one-time money to that department. You don't do a massive message or announcement or website update. I mean, you link to the content, but you may not promote it on the website widely, maybe just to the core users. So that is one aspect of this, or again, just not announce it at all. So my colleagues decided to do that. I usually don't, but that we'll get to my approach in a couple of slides. Issue number 2, and we've already talked about this a little bit, and Cynthia has, how do you explain multi-year deals, right? There's sometimes expectation of permanence in our collections, right? And we all know that's not true, and there are actually examples, and Breezy mentioned examples where faculty know that data is not a permanent connection, you have not permanent description or access. But how do you discuss that you've got something that you're not guaranteed to have after the next 5 years or maybe the next 3 years? So it's risky because it may not be there. And even though faculty might assume we have permanent access or ownership, we don't. And that's not unusual, right? We have to cancel things. We have content like ebook packages, streaming video packages where the books disappear or just get phased out, and video packages where videos come and go. And you all know Netflix is infamous for dropping movies, adding shows, dropping shows as licensing varies a bit. And you watch it while you can, and then like New York Times has an often comment, hey, watch these 5 great movies on Netflix before they disappear in 2 weeks. And they know that's going to go away. So maybe the expectation isn't actually there. But something that we need to acknowledge. My message is you got it for 3 years or 5 years, enjoy it while you have it. 5 years is better than 0 years. At least we got it for now. So enjoy that, and we'll deal with what happens after that when we get there. And when we do get there, okay, there's your choices, right? Maybe we'll get more one-time money, and I can give another 5 years on top of our original 5 years. Yay, that's great. Or we decide this new thing is actually better than this thing we get with our ongoing database budget where it's renewed every year as long as the budget increases under 3%. So we swap out. So this used to be important, not important anymore. Let's get this 5-year deal that's running out and let's move this over into the recurring database budget line. Or simply we lose it after 5 years and say, so we had 5 good years, yay, hope you enjoyed it. That's it, we're done. That's going to happen too. So I think all 3 of those scenarios, well, the first one and final one are kind of easiest to take care of, but the middle one about swapping may also happen as well. So, kind of concluding my communication part here, my focus, I usually work with business faculty, I do sometimes talk to social science faculty too, is simply be direct and explain to them what happened in a scenario and how the content we got is bonus content and it's better than getting nothing at all. So that is just an honest approach, acknowledging that this is not ideal, but it's the only option we have right now to add any new content. So I hope you appreciate it. And they seem to appreciate the honesty, the directness. Don't sugarcoat things or hide the risky aspects of some of these strategies. And like we've talked about already, faculty don't always assume that we have content forever, and often like grant-funded database access or data set access or just one-time purchasing of things that eventually fade away. Or end, there's some acknowledgement of the messiness of collections in the 21st century. The idea that libraries only own things forever, whether print or online, isn't really true. And they kind of know that, as well as the data they use in their own purposes as well. Okay.
So we wanted to get into some specifics for our successes and failures. And some of for me at Michigan State University, some things that we've been able to get that we've had success with has been the LEAP election data, the U.S. Election Atlas. It does require a license, but it was something we licensed the first year, and then every year we just get more data and tack it on, and no new license. And I don't remember that license being atrocious either. We've gotten Sage packages because they do offer subscriptions and purchases, so we have gotten lots of things purchased from them. We've gotten WRDS data, so faculty are already used to it coming and going in there, so it's an easy place to go. Data Axle, we've gotten the historical business and consumer data sets and yearly updates, so that helps use up some funds as well, if necessary. The Cross-National Time Series Data Archive and PRS Researchers data sets, these are 2 data sets I've gotten in the past. And they can be updated as well. Capital IQ, this is something that I worked with the college for. They contacted me right at the end of the year and like, hey, we have money. And it was like, oh my gosh. But we got Capital IQ for 2 years through the college. And they didn't seem to care about what's going to happen in 2 years. We got it for 2 years, yay. So our failures typically come because of the licenses that are the problems. They might jam us up there. So yeah, that's MSU.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about some successes and failures for me. Again, I'm working for Lippincott, the business library. So one success we had was getting bond data, EMAX, and we were able to get it as a one-time purchase the first time we got it, and we have perpetual access. But now what we do is something I mentioned earlier is every year we update it. So we weren't trying to go for a continuous subscription with that, but we can get the annual update. And also, this product is owned by S&P, so it was a familiar vendor, so the license could go through much more easily. All the players knew the expectations. Another product we had good success with is Mosaic, which is a new product type. It's a software program for financial modeling, and that's something that we've never bought as an online remote product before. And we had some hassles with the access set up, but we were able to get that worked out. And so we very happily provide that now. My last example is, I'm not sure if it's a failure or not yet. We were trying to get a database called Tegus, which again is another financial database. in the middle of our negotiations, they got into a merger with AlphaSense. So we had no idea what was going to happen to that product for us. We did have monies for it, but we just didn't know what was going to happen. And that was a lot of communication gaps between the vendor as they were going through their merger and with us. So now I'm still waiting. So I can't tell you if it's a success or not at this point. So that's what we're trying to do, because we are trying to avoid buying another backfile.
And that's something worth mentioning now. We're obviously focusing on kind of businessy centered content that we focus on. My library, and like maybe their libraries too, are still buying ebook packages, journal backfiles that we don't already have, but there aren't that many of those anymore. I guess if JSTOR comes up with something, a new module, but often it's in subjects that we don't cover on our campus, and reference ebooks too. But you can see businessy ones on my list, adding to what Breezy and Cynthia has been mentioning, focusing on multi-year deals, see for the first and third and fourth from the successes column, and data-oriented for the most part, although eMarketer and Sports Business Research Network has reports and narrative content as well. But Sage allows a lot of purchasing across subject areas, including its research methods, database, and other things that don't fall under any one department or any one subject category, I would say, although they do some content, a lot of content actually for business, such as Sage data. And the risk there is that, okay, we have Sage data, but if we don't put any more money into it, it's going to continue to be an aging set of data without any new numbers in it. So that is one aspect of that issue, one issue of that kind of content that we have. And we can certainly talk about any of these options and others when we get to the Q&A in a couple of minutes. Failures, there are others that I wanted that we didn't get because my leaders for collections need, of course, to spread the money out across all the different academic departments and units. So that's understandable, although I regret it sometimes. Yeah, I do regret it. But, they've got to make choices. I'm happy to get what I got. And there are others that didn't want to play ball with us, that simply don't want to do a multi-year deal, or they don't have purchasable, ownable content the way Sage will sell us things for permanent access. And that's understandable, but I still push them. If there's a good database we don't have and I'd love to get it, and say, if we gave you X dollars, could we get a multi-year deal, or can we negotiate that price? And they say, no, we don't want to do that. That's fine, that's their choice. But it is one aspect of that too. All right. So we did that really fast, didn't we? What time is it? Well, 20, actually, that was close, because we wanted 15 minutes for discussion. We have 17 minutes for discussion. So we'll take that.
Right on time.
You all, how many of you are dealing with one-time money and have to, like we have been doing, have to work? And I see 1, 2, okay, actually I see a lot of hands going up too. Okay, good, thank you. Please share your ideas with us. And questions, we'll also take questions. Experiences, warnings.
It depends.
Other suggestions. We'll see, yeah, we'll see. Anyone want to start off with a question or please your own story to share about what you've been doing or have done with one-time spending?
And use the microphone.
There's a microphone on the floor.
Hi, I'm Kim Dolan from Carnegie Mellon. A lot of times what I will do if we have extra money is I send it to EBSCO early to get a prepayment discount, a bigger discount than I normally would by paying those renewals in July. So that's it's kind of like a win-win. I get extra money.
Yeah, thank you.
Good idea. Yeah.
And we also want to hear we know a lot of vendors are in the room and publishers. Your thoughts, feedback, ideas are also very welcome. Please.
I'm Dan Burghardt. I'm from the University of North Texas Health Science Center. Just want to relay an experience. We do a lot of multi-year deals with year-end money, but sometimes our experience varies based on perhaps which purchasing department is reviewing that. We occasionally get caught in a rule like if we spend money, it's supposed to be used for something just in that state of Texas fiscal year.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes someone will call out, wait, you can't use this money to apply to the next couple fiscal years. Just something to watch out for.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Hi, David Sarsfield, British Online Archives. For us as a publisher, one of the challenges that we have with one-time purchasing is ensuring that the interest remains there in terms of usage. Obviously, once you've bought something outright, it's yours. There's not a case of use it or lose it. And I'd be interested to hear from the panel, really, on your own, or if need, your own initiatives in order to keep the fire burning, I suppose, in terms of interest, as the months and years go on, really.
Good question. Any thoughts?
Go for it.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I quite understood your question, but usually when I am going for a multi-year contract, it's because I know that my user population is going to be using that product. There's a huge demand for it. It's used in classes. So I know if I can get that deal that I'm not going to worry about usage dropping off, or I think that was your question.
Yeah.
So, for example, we've tried an initiative which, obviously, you guys are business school, we're more history, humanities, but we created kind of a calendar of notable days. So essentially, we tied historical anniversaries with content that particular university had access to, and then you could create social media content off the back of it, and etc., in order to kind of promote awareness and continue to promote awareness. So it's more how you keep that awareness up as the months and years go on, when there's no pressure there in terms of there's no renewals there, there's no you're never going to be in danger of losing that product. So because in the absence of that pressure, how do you continue to keep the interest in the resource going, really?
I think that you're hoping that faculty have incorporated that product into their coursework, so that, and it's something they can count on. So they're not worried that the next year it's going to go away. I mean, a big problem we have with vendors, if you're interested, is companies that we have to subscribe to the data or the book or whatever it is. We don't own it. And then if we want to cancel our subscription, it completely goes away, and anyone who was using that data has to delete it. So what you're offering is much more favorable for both the faculty and the library.
We do pay close attention to cost per use for our subscription products, and we pay much less little attention to purchased products in terms of cost per use. And frankly, sometimes Sage Data, for example, I mentioned we have purchased, although we need to add in, pay more each year if we want to keep the content up to date. It's similar in scope in some ways to some other products we pay annually for, so the analytics, for example. If I have a choice in a class, I don't have time to use both, and often I want to prioritize one and not just do a database dump. I will emphasize, frankly, the subscription product to make sure the cost per use remains low so that it gets renewed. Whereas Sage Data, is going to be canceled if no one uses it for 1 year because we already purchased it. And you can argue that's unprofessional. I'll take it. That's fine.
Reality.
But I want to keep both, and one of them has to be used a lot each year to keep it going. The other one is safe. So that is one that's for good or ill. That's one of my responses to that situation. Do you want to go next?
Hey, how's it going? My name is Ruben Adorno. I'm with Bloomberg. I'm really excited to be here. I feel like a little spy, even though vendors are here.
Well, we recognize you.
It's great to be here.
Glad you're here.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first is, typically, let's say April to July is usually a busy season, and when you're talking about one-time purchases, usually it happens around that time. And I'm curious, what could move the needle throughout the year, and do one-time purchases happen in the fall as well, or is it just specifically like a spring to summer kind of situation?
Well, I think it varies. A lot of the one-time purchases do happen towards the end of the fiscal year, but I know even at Michigan State, we have, there's also by December, we want to see some spending done. So if you don't, we're going to risk pulling it back. So there still could be some of the, okay, I need to buy something so I
Right.
don't lose it. I think the hard part just getting on the, I know you've been nagging me, the Bloomberg's been nagging me for a while. I'm sure there's some.
Doing his job.
He's doing his job, yep. But it's just trying to, you got to get me at the right time, though. If it's
Right.
the beginning of the fall semester where I'm going crazy, vendor reps, I'm sorry, you're not getting priority attention. But you could always ask, when would be a good time to talk about this?
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I have a different situation, actually, because I need to use my one-time funds to purchase new products. They're actually don't have to be one time, but once I use that money to buy something, I can then move it into ongoing funds. So it's kind of a weird name to call it one-time funds. But so in my case, the sooner someone can get to me with a new product that they think would be useful to me, or they know that someone at Wharton has reached out to them, that's great, because the licensing is such a hurdle.
Ruben, why don't we just do a very quick poll? How many of you who have used one-time money can do so throughout the year? Raise your hands if you've got some flexibility. Okay. How many of you, like me, only get to do it at the end of the fiscal year? So look around, Ruben, and maybe that helps with some context for your first question.
Thank you. My second question, it's a little off topic, but it's one I want to ask because we're all here. So this is more about like being transparent and code of conduct with vendors and departments and libraries. So oftentimes a department will have money to purchase something outright, like you were mentioning, Breezy. So at what point should the vendor reach out to the library? Because often, they'll buy something, they're excited, and then now they don't know how to manage that resource. So what's your take on that?
You mean when to?
When to loop the library in? Should it be right from the beginning of a business? Like if someone reaches out to me directly and they're like, I want this.
Versus
I wanna-
the
We have
department.
money.
To the
Can I
faculty.
get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to be known as soon as possible.
Okay.
I mean, they're my faculty. They're going to end up coming to me anyways.
Yeah.
So I like to be brought in as soon as possible.
Yeah, the sooner I know, the sooner I can help, whether just providing advice or experience or maybe funding. So that does help. But I do understand and know that sometimes departments communicate directly with the vendor, and if it's their purchase, that's fine, that's their call. What do you think?
I agree with both of my colleagues that the sooner I know and I'm aware of something, and again, a lot of times the faculty that are telling you they have money, they then immediately turn to the library.